Three shots, three bodies. And in that moment, as gun smoke hung thick in the desert air, Sam Coltrane knew his blood-soaked past had returned like a ghost that refused to stay buried. The crowd at Dust Hollow's makeshift auction block fell silent. Men who moments before had jeered and hollered now stood frozen, hats clutched to chests, eyes wide with the sudden recognition of who stood before them. The legend, Death's Railroad, the man whose colt had delivered 17 souls to judgment before he'd hung up his guns. Sam's weathered hand still hovered near his holster, though he hadn't drawn, didn't need to. The threat alone had been enough to stop the three men who'd moved toward him when he'd placed a single gold coin on the auctioneer's table. The desert wind whistled through the silence, carrying the scent of blood and fear. At his side stood a boy no older than 6, skinny as a fence post, clutching a wooden horse in white-knuckled fingers. Eli hadn't spoken a word in 2 years, not since that night, not since he'd watched his mother die. And before them both stood Karen Mayfield, chains still dangling from her wrists, defiance blazing in eyes green as broken bottle glass. Her chin remained high despite the bruise forming on her cheek where Jeb Crowley had struck her for daring to speak back. "I am not buying her," Sam had announced, his voice carrying like distant thunder across the crowd. "I am bringing her home." Jeb Crowley stepped forward, gold stitching on his vest catching the harsh sun. The cattle baron's hand drifted to his gun. "That woman's mine, Coltrane. One money fair and square. Step aside before I remind folks why they used to fear you." Sam didn't move, didn't blink, just stared with eyes gray as gunmetal. "You take one more step, and your men will be carrying you home across your saddle." Behind Crowley, his men shifted nervously. One whispered, "That's him. Death's Railroad." The standoff stretched like pulled taffy until boot heels clicked on wooden planks. Sheriff Davis approached, star glinting dully on his chest, a star everyone knew Crowley had paid for. "Looks like we got ourselves a situation," Davis drawled, thumbs hooked in his belt. He turned to Sam. "You causing trouble in my town, Coltrane?" "Just claiming what's right." Davis studied him, then Karen, then glanced at Crowley. A calculation played out behind his eyes. "Woman goes with Coltrane. Law says first payment takes her." "Sheriff," Crowley spat. "We had an arrangement." Davis leaned in close to Crowley. "You want to die today over a woman? Because that's what'll happen if you push him. I've seen what he can do." Crowley's face twisted with rage, but he backed down. "This ain't over, Coltrane. Not by a long shot." Sam nodded once to the sheriff, then turned to Karen. "Ma'am, time to go home." As they walked away, the boy took her chained hand in his tiny one, a gesture that stopped her cold. Behind them, Davis called out, "Crowley won't let this stand, Sam. You know that." Sam didn't turn around. "I'm counting on it." The Coltrane Ranch stood like a defiant fist against the merciless New Mexico landscape. 2 miles west of Dust Hollow, it was a place where only the hardest men dared stake their claim. The drought had turned the once promising grazing land to dust and stone. The wooden house, weather-beaten but proud, sat surrounded by a corral where horses stamped restlessly. Beyond it stretched the barn, a windmill in the endless horizon. Karen stood on the porch, rubbing her freed wrists, watching as Sam unloaded supplies from the wagon. 2 days had passed since the auction, 2 days of wary silence and cautious glances. "Why did you do it?" she finally asked. "Risk your life for a stranger?" Sam paused, a sack of flour balanced on one shoulder. "No one deserves to be bought and sold." He didn't meet her eyes, just continued toward the house. That night, exploring the sparse ranch house, Karen found the room, the master bedroom, door ajar, untouched for what seemed like years. Bloodstains still marked the wall near the bed. Bullet holes pocked the plaster. Her fingers traced them, feeling the violence that had happened here. 2 years ago, Sam's voice from the doorway made her jump. "Crowley's men. They came for our horses. Mary tried to stop them. His voice was flat, emotionless. Eli saw everything, hasn't spoken since. Karen's hand fell away from the wall. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be ready. Sam's eyes hardened. Crowley won't stop until he gets what he wants. Never has. Is that why you still carry that gun? Even though you've hung them up? Sam's hand unconsciously touched the Colt at his hip. Some ghosts don't rest easy. The pre-dawn hours brought the smell of smoke. Sam bolted upright in his bed, instantly alert. Years of survival had honed his senses to a razor's edge. He grabbed his Colt and was out the door before the first horse screamed. The stables burned, orange flames licking at the night sky. Crowley's calling card. Inside, horses kicked at their stalls in panic. Karen! Sam shouted, already running. Get water! She appeared in her nightdress, hair wild, but eyes clear and focused. Together they formed a bucket line from the well to the barn. Eli appeared too, his small hands gripping a pail almost as big as he was. By dawn, they'd saved most of the horses, but the stable was lost. As they stood, smoke-stained and exhausted, Sam spotted something stuck to a post with a knife. A notice. Property seizure for unpaid taxes. Sheriff's signature at the bottom. Crowley, Sam muttered, crumpling the paper. Using the law now. Karen wiped soot from her face. What will you do? Teach you to shoot. He handed her his rifle. War's coming. That afternoon, under the merciless sun, Sam positioned Karen behind a makeshift firing line. Empty bottles stood on a fence post 30 yards away. Breathe in, he instructed, standing close. Exhale slowly as you squeeze. Don't pull. Karen's first shot went wide. Her second clipped the post. By the fifth, she'd shattered a bottle. Where did New York woman learn to adapt so quick? Sam asked, genuine curiosity breaking through his usual reserve. Karen lowered the rifle. How'd you know I'm from New York? Your hands, soft but not useless, and you hold yourself like someone used to finer things. She smiled for the first time since he'd met her. I was a nurse during the war. Sam's eyebrows rose slightly. Which side? The right one. She raised the rifle again. The one that thought people shouldn't be property. Sam's mouth twitched in what might have been the beginning of a smile. We need supplies. Town's our only option. Karen's next shot hit dead center, exploding the bottle. Then we go to town. Dust Hollow's main street stirred with the usual midday lethargy when Sam's wagon rolled in. Conversation died as he helped Karen down. Eli between them. Men stopped to stare. Women pulled children closer. At the general store, the proprietor sneered as they entered. Didn't expect to see you alive, Coltrane. Thought Crowley would have sent you to meet your wife by now. Sam ignored him, placing their list on the counter. Karen kept Eli close, feeling the hostile eyes on them. A commotion outside drew their attention. A woman's scream. My boy! Snake got my boy! Karen moved before Sam could stop her. Pushing through the gathering crowd, a child no more than 10 lay in the dust, his arms swelling grotesquely, 2 puncture wounds visible on his forearm. Rattlesnake. Move back, Karen commanded, kneeling beside the boy. Her voice carried such authority that people obeyed without question. He needs a tourniquet, she announced, already tearing a strip from her petticoat. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, tying off the arm above the bite. And the venom needs to be sucked out. Ain't nobody touching that poison, someone muttered. Karen shot them a withering look, then lowered her mouth to the wound. She spat venom into the dirt, then repeated the process. Sam watched, a new respect dawning in his eyes. Water, she demanded, clean cloth, and whiskey if you have it. The items appeared as if by magic. The crowd's hostility had transformed into something like awe. Karen worked steadily, cleaning the wound, administering whiskey for the pain. The boy's color gradually improved. He'll live, she announced finally, but he needs rest and plenty of water. As they prepared to leave, an old woman approached. Gray-haired and stern-faced, she looked Karen directly in the eye. "You're Barrett's woman," she said quietly. "The one who ran." Karen stiffened. "I don't know what you're talking about. Walter Barrett, New York society man, engaged to you before you discovered he was already married." The old woman, Martha, according to the whispers, leaned closer. "News travels even to places like this, especially when a powerful man puts out a reward." Karen's face drained of color. "How did you—" "My son worked for Barrett before the war," Martha explained, her voice low. "Saw how he treated women. When I saw you at that auction block, I knew." She pressed something into Karen's hand, a folded paper. "Federal marshals coming. 2 days. Investigating slave trading. You might want to be there." "Why help us?" Sam asked, suddenly beside them. Martha's eyes hardened. "Crowley killed my husband when he wouldn't sell our land. Been waiting for someone strong enough to stand against him." On the ride home, Sam remained silent, processing this new information. Karen stared straight ahead, the paper clutched in her hand like a lifeline. They were less than a mile from the ranch when the first shot rang out. Sam reacted instantly, hauling Karen and Eli down into the wagon bed as bullets splintered wood around them. "Stay down," he hissed, finally drawing his Colt. 3 riders had positioned themselves on the ridge overlooking the road, Crowley's men. Sam fired twice in quick succession. 1 rider fell, the other scattered. "Drive!" Sam commanded, pressing the reins into Karen's hands while he continued firing. She snapped them hard and the horses bolted forward, wagon bouncing violently over the rutted road. They made it to the ranch, but Sam's expression was grim as he unhitched the panting horses. "They're getting bolder. Next time it'll be worse." That night, as Eli slept, Karen found Sam cleaning his guns on the porch. The moon cast his face in silver and shadow. "Why don't you just leave?" she asked softly. "Take Eli somewhere safe. This land isn't worth dying for." Sam's hands never paused in their methodical work. "This land is all I have left. All Eli has left of his mother." He looked up at her. "What about you? Why did you run from New York?" Karen sat beside him, drawing her knees to her chest. "Pride, shame, fear." She stared out at the darkness. "Walter Barrett wasn't just married. He was cruel, used women like pawns. When I confronted him, he laughed, said I was the kind of woman men practice on." Sam's jaw tightened. "Men like that deserve a bullet." "Men like that own the world," Karen countered. "At least out here, in this wasteland, there's a kind of honesty to the brutality." Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. For the briefest moment, Sam's hand covered hers. Then they both turned away, back to the night and its approaching dangers. That evening, Karen noticed something that gave her hope. Eli, who'd been silently watching her ever since she'd arrived, had begun leaving small gifts outside her door. A wildflower, a polished stone, and most tellingly, a crude wooden figure he'd carved himself. "He's trying," Sam explained, watching his son from across the room. "Hasn't made anything since Mary died." "Has he tried to speak at all?" Karen asked. Sam shook his head. "Doctor in Tucson said the shock might have sealed his voice away. Said he'd talk when he was ready." His eyes followed his son with a mixture of love and worry. "If he's ever ready." Dawn broke with the distant sound of hoofbeats. Many horses. Sam was instantly alert, rifle in hand. "They're coming," he said simply. "Eli, take Karen to the root cellar, now." "No," Karen replied, already loading the spare shotgun. "I'm not hiding." Sam's expression darkened. "This isn't a debate." "I've patched up enough bullet holes to know how to make them," she countered. "Besides, you need every gun you can get." Before Sam could argue further, The riders appeared on the horizon, at least 15 men, Crowley at their head. "Get to the house," Sam ordered. "Upstairs window. Better angle." As Karen positioned herself, Sam calmly walked to the edge of his property. One man against an army. She could see him talking to Crowley, though couldn't hear the words. Whatever was said made Crowley laugh. Then everything exploded into violence. The first shot came from one of Crowley's men. Sam dropped to one knee, returning fire with deadly precision. Two men fell before the others scattered, diving for cover. Karen fired the shotgun at a rider trying to circle behind the house. The blast caught him in the shoulder, sending him tumbling from his horse. Beneath her, she could hear Eli whimpering in the root cellar where they'd hidden him. The gunfight stretched on, bullets splintering wood and shattering windows. Sam moved like a ghost, appearing at one window, then another, each shot finding its mark. But they were outnumbered. It was only a matter of time. A sudden crash from below froze Karen's blood. The back door. Someone had broken in. She raced downstairs to find Eli's hiding place empty. The cellar door stood open. Panic seized her. Outside, a man's voice rose above the gunfire. "Coltrane! I got your boy!" The shooting stopped abruptly. Karen peered through a shattered window to see Jeb Crowley standing in the open. Eli struggling in his grip, a gun pressed to the boy's head. "Come out, Coltrane," Crowley shouted, "or I finish what my men started with your family." Sam appeared in the doorway, his Colt lowered. Blood streaked his left arm where a bullet had grazed him. His face was a mask of controlled rage. "Let him go, Crowley. This is between you and me." Crowley's laugh was ugly. "Always has been, ever since you killed my brother in that saloon in Tucson." Sam went very still. "Your brother drew first, and he was wanted for murder in 3 territories." "He was still my blood." Crowley tightened his grip on Eli, who whimpered. "Now you get to watch your blood spill, just like I did." Sam's hand twitched toward his gun, but Crowley pressed the barrel harder against Eli's temple. Toss it away. Now." Slowly, deliberately, Sam removed his Colt and threw it in the dust. "You're a coward, Crowley. Always were." "Maybe so. But I'm the coward who's still standing." Crowley grinned. "You know your wife begged before my boys shot her. Begged real pretty." Something changed in Sam's eyes then. A coldness, a deadness. He took a step forward. "One more step and the boy dies," Crowley warned. "You'll kill him anyway," Sam replied, his voice eerily calm. "Just like you killed Mary." "Damn right I will. But first—" The gunshot cracked across the yard. Crowley staggered, blood blooming on his thigh. Karen stood in the doorway, Sam's spare revolver smoking in her hand. In the split second of confusion, Sam lunged forward, tackling Crowley to the ground. Eli broke free, running toward the house as Sam and Crowley struggled for the dropped gun. Crowley's men raised their weapons, but hesitated, afraid of hitting their boss. Karen fired again, forcing them back into cover. Sam and Crowley wrestled in the dust. Despite his wounded leg, Crowley fought with the desperate strength of a cornered animal. The gun between them wavered back and forth. "You took everything from me," Crowley spat through gritted teeth. "You took it from yourself," Sam grunted, gaining control of the gun, pressing it to Crowley's chest. His finger tightened on the trigger. One squeeze and it would be over. Justice for Mary, peace for Eli. His revenge complete. "Dad, don't!" Eli's voice, as small but clear, rang out across the yard. Sam froze. It was the first word his son had spoken in 2 years. "Please don't," Eli pleaded, tears streaming down his dirty face. "You promised Mom. No more killing." Time seemed to stand still. Sam's face twisted with conflicting emotions. Rage, grief, and something like hope. Gradually, his grip on the gun loosened. He stood, keeping the weapon trained on Crowley. "It's over, Jeb." "Like hell it is." Crowley snarled, reaching for a hidden derringer in his boot. Before he could draw, new voices rang out. Federal marshals, drop your weapons. Riders in blue coats and badges poured into the yard, rifles raised. At their head was Martha, pointing directly at Crowley. That's him, the one running the slave trade. The marshals disarmed Crowley's men with ruthless efficiency. As they cuffed Crowley, the lead marshal approached Sam. We've been watching from the ridge. Saw everything. Martha told us you might need help. Sam nodded once, tension still radiating from him like heat. Came just in time. We've been building a case against Crowley for months. Human trafficking, murder, corruption. The marshal glanced at Karen. Your testimony about the auction would help ensure he never sees daylight again. Karen moved to Eli's side, drawing him close. I'll tell you everything I know. As the marshals led Crowley away, he spat at Sam's feet. This ain't over. Sam watched him go, expression unreadable. Yes, it is. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened in Dust Hollow. With Crowley gone, people began to speak freely again. Stories emerged of his cruelty, his corruption, the fear he'd instilled in everyone. And as these stories spread, so too did word of Sam Coltrane's stand against him. The same townspeople who had once shunned Sam's family now approached them cautiously in the street. The mother of the snake-bitten boy brought fresh bread. The blacksmith offered to help rebuild their stable. Even Sheriff Davis, now without Crowley's backing, made a stumbling attempt at apology. Eli, having broken his silence, began to speak more each day. Small sentences at first, whispered mainly to Karen. Then gradually his voice grew stronger, his words more frequent, as if making up for 2 years of silence. A month passed. Spring brought unexpected rain to the parched land. Green shoots pushed through the hard-packed earth around the Coltrane ranch. The stable had been rebuilt, stronger than before. The bullet holes in the house were patched. Karen sat on the porch steps, reading a letter that had arrived that morning, an offer to serve as the town's nurse, following her dramatic saving of the snake-bitten boy. The same townsfolk who had jeered now sought her healing hands. Inside, she could hear Eli chattering excitedly to his father. The boy spoke more each day, as if making up for lost time. He was asking about school, Sam said, emerging from the house to join her. Wants to learn reading. Proper reading. Karen folded the letter carefully. Children heal faster than we do. Sam nodded, looking out across his land, greening under the spring rains. His eyes fell on the distant ridge where Mary was buried. Not sure some wounds ever truly heal. No, Karen agreed softly, but they become part of us, shape us. Sam studied her face in the fading light. That letter, bad news. A job offer, she replied, in town, as a doctor's assistant. A shadow crossed his face. You're leaving then? It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. I thought I might stay, if there's reason to. Sam looked out across his land, greening under the spring rains. Land's hard. Life's harder. Wouldn't blame you for wanting something better. Karen stood, moving to his side. I've seen better, Sam. Fancy houses, fine clothes, men with smooth hands and poisonous hearts. Her fingers brushed his scarred knuckles. I'll take honest hardship over gilded lies. Something shifted in Sam's expression. Not quite a smile, but the breaking of a long winter. Eli would miss you. Just Eli? She asked softly. Instead of answering, Sam took her hand in his. They stood together in silence, watching the sun sink toward the distant mountains. Later, as dusk painted the desert in shades of fire, Sam walked to the oak tree where Mary was buried. He knelt at the simple marker, removing his gun belt, the Colt that had taken 17 lives, that had failed to save the one life that mattered most. I'm sorry, he whispered to the silent grave. Sorry I couldn't protect you. Sorry I brought that life to our door. Carefully, reverently, he dug a hole beside the grave and placed the gun inside, buried it deep, not forgotten, but no longer needed. When he returned to the house, Karen and Eli were waiting on the porch. The boy ran to him, grabbing his hand. Dad, Karen's showing me how to make medicine from plants, and she says I can help her in town sometimes, like her helper. Sam's eyes met Karen's over his son's head. In her gaze, he saw not pity, but understanding. Not a replacement for what he'd lost, but the promise of something new. That night, as Eli slept peacefully for the first time in years, Sam and Karen sat together on the porch, shoulders touching, watching the stars emerge above the vast New Mexico territory. The marshal said they found papers at Crowley's ranch, Karen said quietly. Names of other men involved in the trafficking. It's over, Sam. Really over. He nodded slowly. One kind of war ends. Life goes on. And what kind of life will it be? She asked. Sam looked at her. This woman who had come to them in chains and now stood free beside him. Who had brought his son's voice back? Who had helped him bury his ghosts? A better one? He said simply, and for the first time in years, he believed it. In Dust Hollow, people still tell stories of the day Jeb Crowley's reign of terror ended, of the mysterious New York woman who became their healer, of the silent child who found his voice again, and of Sam Coltrane, who buried his gun in his past and discovered that on even the most parched land, new life could take root. Sometimes redemption isn't about what you've lost, but what you choose to protect. And on this harsh frontier, where only the strongest survived, a broken family had found its soul of steel once more. If this story moved your heart, if you felt the dust and danger of the frontier, then remember, even in the most barren places, second chances take root. Subscribe for more tales of redemption, courage, and the kind of love that only the untamed West could forge. We'll see you in the next story, partner.